Tonight,
this fake case was brought only to interfere with the upcoming 2024 election.
Facing 34 charges, the former president insists on innocence and goes on the attack on the investigators. Plus, shakeup in the Wisconsin Supreme Court, the high-stakes election that changed the makeup of the conservative-leaning bench. And she brought the abortion issue before the Supreme Court, sparking a change in 50 years of federal law.
Certainly we made the argument, and the justices agreed, that this was such an important issue that should always be returned to the people.
How the Mississippi Attorney General is leading the fight for life in her state post-Roe. All this and more tonight on Faith Nation. No crime, no case. Welcome to Faith Nation from our News Bureau in Washington. I'm John Jessup. Well, those words from former President Donald Trump, who went from businessman to commander-in-chief and now a criminal defendant. Trump and his supporters railing against the charges and those bringing the case against him after he pleaded not guilty to 34 felony counts related to campaign hush money payments. CBN White House correspondent Abigail Robertson joins us with the latest reaction. Abigail.
Well, John, after a historic day in court, Trump flew back to Florida where he held a rally with supporters at Mar-a-Lago and claimed that the indictment is bogus and the prosecution has no case against him.
The only crime that I have committed is to fearlessly defend our nation from those who seek to destroy it.
Trump arrived at the sealed-off courthouse Tuesday afternoon, where he was taken into custody, processed, and then taken upstairs to face the judge. Trump's attorney telling NBC News today they felt relief after the hour-long proceeding.
Where are the underlying charges? And the indictment actually did not list what these underlying charges are. Understand, Savannah, these false business record entries, which are not even false, are misdemeanor counts, which would not be able to be brought at this point. The statute of limitations is long gone. The only way to make this a felony is to cobble together a couple of misdemeanors, the false business records and the attempt to cover up another crime. But the indictment doesn't even list what the other crime is.
Trump is charged with falsifying business records. Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg alleges Trump conducted an illegal catch-and-kill scheme to hide personal scandals from the public ahead of the 2016 election.
34 false statements made to cover up other crimes. These are felony crimes in New York State, no matter who you are.
The payments in question include 2 six-figure sums to women who claim to have had affairs with Trump and a $30,000 payment to a former doorman at Trump Tower trying to sell a story about Trump fathering a child, which a tabloid concluded was false. Cameras were briefly allowed in the courtroom, capturing these images of a stone-faced Trump. The counts against him carry a maximum sentence of 136 years in prison.
Absolutely, he can run his campaign from jail.
CBN News chief political analyst David Brody claims this is already having positive political implications for the former president's 2024 campaign.
This is going to be a huge boon for Trump. We've already seen $8 million that he's raised since the indictment last week. And so we have a sense of where this is going.
Even longtime GOP foes are coming to Trump's defense, like Senator Mitt Romney, who released a statement accusing the prosecutor of trying to fit a political agenda, saying his overreach sets a dangerous precedent for criminalizing political opponents and damages the public's faith in our justice system.
There is a double standard at play, and that's why this is all politically, at least, to Trump's advantage right now.
Now, Trump's next hearing is scheduled for December, with the prosecution pushing for a trial to start in January. And Trump is also facing potentially other charges from investigations in different states, including accusations of election fraud in Georgia. John?
All right, CBN White House correspondent Abigail Robertson. Thank you so much, Abigail. Well, Dr. Mark Caleb Smith works at Cedarville University as the director of the Center of Political Studies there. Dr. Smith, thank you so much for being with us. I want to point out something that you tweeted. It reads, not a fan of former President Donald Trump, not an attorney, but I care deeply about our country, the rule of law, and our fragile form of government. this doesn't look like a case to bring against a political opponent running for president. Dr. Smith, as a political scientist, can you explain why this wasn't a banner day for the United States on the world stage, as you put it?
Well, I think anytime that you bring a rival politician to justice, so President Trump is running for election right now. The district attorney of Manhattan is a Democrat. The Democrats control the White House. And anytime you make a move like this and bring in a rival to justice, I think you need to have a pretty airtight case. I think it needs to be clear and compelling evidence, even to the point where the loyal supporters of that rival politician would have to say, you know, this looks really bad, and we think there's a real possibility that crimes were committed here, and they're willing to give it a shot. I don't think that this case meets that threshold. And so, again, as I said in the tweet, I'm not a huge fan of the former presidents, but I'm also not a huge fan of prosecutors abusing their power. And right now, this looks a little bit more like prosecutorial abuse than justice.
You hear a lot of the abuse of power. You also mentioned our fragile form of government. What about other democracies that have held their leaders to account? You have France, South Korea, Italy, and Taiwan. Interestingly, the president of Taiwan is currently in the country, and I'm not suggesting that she was accused of corruption, but you do have these other leaders who have been held to account.
Yeah, and so I don't think that it's out of the realm of possibility for sure. You know, I said in that tweet that our form of government is fragile. What I mean by that is the rule of law, it rests on our faith in those institutions. And so we have to have faith and confidence that the courts are functioning with some semblance of equal treatment for anyone, whether that's a former president or whether that's just a humble person on the street. At the same time, we don't want to have a situation where the rules are bent in the worst possible way to punish someone who is powerful. And so I think we need equal treatment before the law, and right now you could question whether that's taking place. You're right, those other countries have engaged in prosecutions, and I think for the most part properly, and I would have no problem if President Trump were brought to a court of justice under appropriate charges. My guess is the Georgia case or the Department of Justice case that are still emerging will probably have stronger charges attached to those.
You know, some conservative commentators have suggested that right-leaning judges and others in power should start filing indictments against Democrats. Mark, is that the right response, and what happens if we go down that road in the few seconds we have left?
Yeah, I think that is not the right response. We need our judicial branch to function as in an impartial fashion as much as possible. And so we don't need to have equal treatment here in terms of abusing power. I understand it's a very tense political moment that we're in. We're very polarized as a country, but the answer to this is not to abuse just because you've suffered.
All right, Dr. Mark Caleb Smith at Cedarville University, we appreciate your time and insights tonight.
All right, thank you.
Well, lawmakers in Washington are coming together to cross the aisle demanding answers from the White House. It's a result of new information and reporting that suggests that Chinese spy balloon spotted in the skies above the United States was able to collect much more intelligence than the Biden administration first admitted. CBN national security correspondent Caitlin Burke joins us now. Caitlin, both sides want the president to do more to protect the American people from China.
That's right, John. We know now the balloon's week-long trip across the U.S. allowed it to collect intelligence from sensitive military sites, despite efforts by the Biden administration to block that capability. Media reports citing administration sources also maintain China controlled the balloon as it made multiple passes over some sites, collecting information from the electronic signals transmitted from things like weapon systems and on-base communications.
Good afternoon. We had the President of the United States saying that he was not concerned about this. There's nothing to worry about. Folks shouldn't be anxious.
The Pentagon insists any information gathered by Beijing was of, quote, limited additive value. But Victoria Coates, a former U.S. Deputy National Security Advisor, says the most valuable intelligence China gained likely came from the initial lack of U.S. response to the balloon.
I would assume they thought that the thing would be shot down over Alaska, and that would teach them one thing. But what they learned was they could fly this thing with impunity across the continental United States.
The balloon contained a self-destruct mechanism that could have been activated remotely by China. It's unclear whether it malfunctioned or wasn't activated. Regardless, Coates believes it communicates how frantic China is for information on the U.S.
I think from their perspective, it shows that they were in this to get as much as they could out of the balloon, that protecting the balloon or destroying its sensitive materials was less important to them than seeing how far they could get and what they could gather.
Republican and Democratic lawmakers alike want the Biden administration to do more to protect Americans.
If you take a look at the path that balloon took, there was nothing accidental about it. They were gathering information. I don't know how much they got at this moment in time, but I'm sure we'll find out as time moves on. But the fact is, it was inappropriate behavior.
Coates sees this as a basic national security issue and hopes Congress can unite around it. She's joining in the call for the Biden administration to start communicating accurate information to those who gave them the job, the American people. John?
All right, CBN's Caitlin Burke. Thank you so much, Caitlin. Well, in a first-of-its-kind gathering on U.S. soil, House Speaker Kevin McCarthy and Taiwan's president met today in California. Their meeting happening despite warnings from China, which dispatched 20 warplanes between Monday and Tuesday following the Chinese government's promised resolute actions in response to the, quote, provocation. This was the first time a House Speaker has met with the head of Taiwan here in the United States. Former Speaker Nancy Pelosi sparked Chinese military drills last year when she visited the island. Well, here now for more is Michael Cunningham, a research fellow in the Heritage Foundation's Asian Study Center. Michael, welcome. So first, Nancy Pelosi, now Speaker McCarthy. Michael, what message does it send that American lawmakers continue these visits despite China's belligerent rhetoric?
Well, it shows the support that America has for Taiwan, and particularly important is that McCarthy met with Tsai in conjunction with several other representatives as well from both parties. So this is very much a bipartisan issue in America, that we have a lot of support for Taiwan. Also importantly, it was all in line with precedent. We did not in any way do anything that should be considered particularly provocative by China. It was all in line with our assurances both to China and to Taiwan about how the U.S.-Taiwan unofficial relationship should be conducted.
As you just mentioned, Michael, she met with a bipartisan congressional delegation. What's to be gained by these meetings?
Well, a couple of things, really. I think the most important thing, really, is showcasing the support that Taiwan has in America. It does, as long as it stays within the proper boundaries, it shows a very strong message to China that we do stand behind Taiwan. And as I said, not an overly provocative message. It's just a firm, strong message. Another important thing is that it helps also our representatives here in America understand Taiwan better and understand its needs, which are not limited to China. My understanding is a lot of the discussions that they had both in New York and now in California were about other issues that had nothing to do with Beijing. And so that's very important for both for Taiwan and for the United States, as we're such important trade and cultural and economic partners.
Politico has an article out today, and the headline reads, China is ghosting the United States, reporting high-level diplomatic contact has been cut off for months. Michael, what does that mean for both the present and future of the United States-China relations?
Well, it's pretty dangerous, actually. Now, I think the most dangerous aspect is actually the military communication between the U.S. and China. So that was cut off after former Speaker Pelosi visited Taiwan last August. It's very important, especially given the tensions between the U.S. and China, and the amount of particularly the militarization by China of the Taiwan Strait. It's very important that there is this this channel by which the two countries can pick up the phone and have high-level discussion, in the military realm to diffuse these tensions, and that's not happening right now, which is quite dangerous.
Okay, we'll have to leave it right there. Michael Cunningham with the Heritage Foundation. Thank you so much, Michael, for your time and your insights.
Thank you.
She battled against abortion and won big. Meet Mississippi's Attorney General when Faith Nation returns. Welcome back. Wisconsin voted to reshape the balance of the state's high court, electing a Democrat-backed Milwaukee judge in what's been called the most important statewide race this year. Janet Protasiewicz won a decisive victory, giving liberals majority control of the court for at least the next 2 years. At stake is Wisconsin's ban on abortion, as well as drawing up state election maps, which could have national implications. Well, from ending abortion to empowering victims of abuse and exploitation, Mississippi Attorney General Lynn Finch says she's fighting for life in her state. And after waging the legal battle that brought about the Supreme Court decision to end Roe v. Wade, she credits her faith for helping her in that fight. Brody Carter brings us her story from Mississippi.
The reason abortion rights went back to the states following the reversal of Roe v. Wade could be directly tied to the efforts of one woman, Mississippi Attorney General Lynn Finch. And her efforts to fight for life and women's rights go even deeper here in the Magnolia State.
The power of the prayer for us kept us going.
Choose women! Choose women! Hey, hey! Ho, ho! Roe v. Wade has got to go!
As the Attorney General prepared for one of her most important cases, Lynn Finch believes God played a central role in overturning America's abortion law.
And when we got ready for oral argument on December the 1st, oh, you could just feel the synergy, the prayers there, and the excitement outside in the rally. We had thousands of people. People were praying.
Finch and her staff spearheaded Dobbs v. Jackson Women's Health Organization, the case responsible for overturning the 1973 Roe v. Wade ruling that legalized abortion nationwide. At the time, Jackson Women's Health Organization was the state's last standing abortion clinic, often called the Pink House due to its iconic paint job.
Certainly, we made the argument, and the justices agreed, that this was such an important issue that should always be returned to the people. So now for the people to make all the choices, the decisions, and they have the opportunity through their elected officials, through their governor. And if you don't like it, then you can certainly remove them from office.
Before that daily push for the people begins, the Attorney General and her staff arm themselves with faith.
I have many favorites, but Philippians 4:13, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. This office is a very Christian office. We certainly pray together. That's how we open up so many of our different activities.
Finch credits God and hard work for overturning Roe v. Wade, followed by several trigger laws nationwide, including one in Mississippi, which bans all abortions except to save the life of a woman or in cases of rape or incest reported to law enforcement. The Pink House closed its doors less than a month later. A fresh paint job covers the former Jackson Women's Health Organization's extensive history of abortion. The new owner plans to open up a consignment shop with hopes it's a business the entire community can embrace. The Attorney General's priority for life is now expanding as she's working toward solutions that can empower women in a state suffering at the top of too many categories: infant mortality, premature births, and poverty.
It's certainly tough. I completely understand that. And our role is that we're there to help them. That's what our challenge is. Now, how do we empower these women that are struggling? What can we do as a state?
With nearly 40 years of legal experience, AG Finch is currently focused on protecting victims of domestic violence, sexual assault, and human trafficking.
When I first ran for this office, I recognized we had an issue in human trafficking here in the state of Mississippi. In the 18 months, we've rescued 187 individuals, including 15 children. We've made 60 arrests. We've had over 40 operations with our local and federal law enforcement partners.
Honored as one of Time Magazine's 100 most influential people, Mississippi's first female chief legal officer began her journey in the same office she now leads.
I know God placed me here for all these different reasons, but to come back as the Attorney General, where I once served as a Special Assistant Attorney General, is extremely special.
As for what's ahead, Finch says she remains steadfast in her duties as a female trailblazer, not just for Mississippi, but the nation. Despite the hardships accompanied with being a single mother of 3, Finch shares her story to empower women to choose life, while modeling what she believes is noble, excellent, and praiseworthy.
We believe in the next steps, and As I talk about next steps for this new Dobbs era, it certainly goes to the heart of your question. How do we empower those mothers, those children? What are we doing for the future? And as we've really evaluated next steps, it involves everyone.
Reporting in Jackson, Mississippi, Brody Carter, CBN News.
Violent clashes mark the month of Ramadan. The latest from the Middle East when we come back. Israeli airstrikes early Wednesday targeted militants in the Gaza Strip after Hamas fired more than a dozen rockets across the southern border. The violence comes after Israeli police raided Al-Aqsa Mosque on the Temple Mount. Some Palestinians had barricaded themselves inside the mosque to prevent Jewish activists from performing Passover sacrifices at the site. Police removed around 300 people from inside, resulting in the Hamas attack. No reports of injuries tonight following those rockets or Israel's air response. Well, here at home, President Biden is marking Passover by calling on Americans to confront anti-Semitism around the country. In a CNN op-ed, the president says the day marks a time to remember and also a time to act, writing, quote, "Passover teaches that remembering is not enough. We must also speak out." The word Haggadah means telling, and it reminds us of our moral obligation to state clearly and forcefully that the scourge of anti-Semitism must stop. He added that despite our differences, we sit at the same table as one people, one nation, one America. Let us join hands across faiths, races, and backgrounds to make clear that evil will not win, hate will not prevail, and anti-Semitism will not be the story of our time. Hope amid hardship. Coming up, the big meaning behind a tiny little box. Finally tonight, a sign of hope after powerful tornadoes swept through Arkansas. Amid the wreckage, a family keepsake found and preserved. After posting images of a little red box on Facebook, the owner's daughter recognized it right away and recovered it for her mom. Inside were baby clothes and an engraved Bible from her daughter's baptism. The box was more than sentimental. When asked what it means to her, the owner said, "Hope," adding that prayer is powerful and the reason why she's still here. And what a great preservation. Well, that's going to do it for tonight's Faith Nation. As always, thank you so much for watching. We hope to see you right back here again tomorrow.